About the Browns, who'd you mock to the Browns at 26 in your mock draft? Your first one, I know there'll be more, but who'd you have, and what do you like about the guy that you chose for the Browns?
Well, staying on cue of the guys that really did the most with their 2020 season, the guy I had them taking is Jaelan Phillips, a defensive end out of the University of Miami. Now, he's an interesting player. For people that followed high school recruiting way back in 2017, this name will sound very familiar to them. He was a very highly touted prospect when he committed to UCLA. He had problems with injuries 2 seasons, had concussion issues, and even briefly stepped away from football for an entire year before he came over to Miami for the 2020 season. Now the Canes didn't have Gregory Rousseau, their other defensive end, who is also projected to be a first rounder, probably the top edge rusher in this class. But Phillips goes in and doesn't miss a beat. You look at the numbers: 8 sacks, 15 and a half tackles for loss in 10 games this year. What I like about Phillips, 6'5", 266, he's athletic. I love the way he uses his hands is something that stuck out to me when I'm kind of watching his highlight tape. His hands are tremendous. And I know there's injury questions, those things like that, but when you're getting into the 20s, there's no such thing as a sure prospect. You kind of have to weigh those things, whether the positives kind of outweigh the negatives. And in this case with Phillips, I really believe he's got a lot of the tools that, as time goes on, if he stays healthy, he's got a chance to be a pretty good defensive end in this league.
You look at, you mentioned it, how much do you think he helped his draft status by what he did this year?
Tremendously. I mean, I can't imagine there were a lot of people, like I said, outside of the diehards that were following this that thought Jaelen Phillips was going to do anything, that he was going to be drafted or whatever. But the fact that he played, that he showed out, and that Miami was also one of the surprises of college football. They were one of the better teams throughout the season. They were one of the surprises about the first month to a month and a half in the season, and Phillips had a lot to do with that. So him playing well and Miami being in the national spotlight, that's stuff that takes you from being a guy that people have never heard of, by and large, to being a guy who could certainly be a first-round pick.